Hi, my name is Deepshika Banerjee. I'm based here in St. Louis, Missouri, and welcome to our third module in the micro course Introduction to Neuroscience, Introduction to Neurons. So, in this module, we'll be covering a few different things. We'll be exploring the structure of neurons, learning the functions of glial cells, understand how neurons generate electrical signals, discover how neurons communicate at the synaptic level, and introduce a few major neurotransmitters. But before we dig too deep into it, what actually is a neuron? In the first module, we talked about how the neuron doctrine established that neurons are the primary communication cells for the nervous system, and that there are about 86 billion neurons found in the human brain. Now, neurons, the main job is to receive, process, and transmit information. They communicate with each other using electric and chemical signals and form interconnected networks called neural circuits. Now, a neuron traditionally has dendrites, which receive the incoming signals, a cell body or a soma that contains the nucleus and maintains cellular function, the axon that carries electrical signals away from the cell body, a myelin sheath that insulates the axon and speeds signal transmission, and the axon terminals that release neurotransmitters to the next cell. So there's a few different types of neurons that help us to function. The main three are sensory, motor, and interneurons. Sensory neurons carry information from receptors to the CNS. So in the PNS, they are part of the afferent pathway. Motor neurons send commands from the CNS to muscles and glands. So they are part of the efferent pathway. And interneurons connect neurons within the CNS. Now, most neurons in the brain are interneurons. But these different types of neurons can also support specialized functions within different brain regions as well. Now, when we were talking about cellular neuroscience in Mod 1, we talked about how it was the study of neuronal and glial cells. So that means glial cells are different from neurons. In fact, they far outnumber neurons in several regions of the nervous system. They provide nutrients and structural support, form myelin across the axons, maintain the extracellular environment, and protect the neuron from infection while removing all cellular debris. As a ground state, neurons maintain a resting membrane potential of about 70 millivolts. Now, we'll see in the diagram on the side that there's an unequal ion distribution that's being created on an electrical gradient. The sodium ions, or the Na plus ions, are more concentrated outside the cell, and the potassium ions, so K plus, are more concentrated on the inside of the cell. And there's a sodium-potassium pump that helps to maintain this gradient. Now, neurons will communicate with each other through electrical signals, and these rapid electrical signals are called action potentials. They start when the membrane reaches a certain threshold. Then the sodium channels open up, causing depolarization, and the potassium channels restore the resting state through repolarization. However, it should be known that action potentials follow an all or none principle. So, in order for a full action potential to be executed, the full depolarization and repolarization process must occur. If it occurs halfway, then the electrical signal is not passed on to the next neuron. Now, we stated that the neurons talk through electrical and chemical signals. The chemical part of this process occurs at the junction between the axon terminals of one neuron and the dendrites of another neuron. This junction is called the synapse, or the synaptic junction. Electrical signals trigger neurotransmitter release in the axon terminals, and these neurotransmitters cross the synaptic cleft into the dendrites of the next cell. The receptors on the dendrites of the next cell then receive this signal. Based on the neurotransmitter, the signals may either excite or inhibit the receiving neuron. Now, if it's exciting the neuron, that means the electrical signal is traveling from one neuron to the next and then one after that. However, if it inhibits the receiving neuron, then it goes from one neuron to the next and then does not further travel to another one after it. A few major neurotransmitters include glutamate, which is a primary excitatory neurotransmitter, GABA, which is a primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, dopamine, which helps in movement, motivation, and reward, serotonin, that helps in mood, sleep, and appetite, and acetylcholine, that helps in muscle contraction, learning, and memory. So we see that this module covers a few different things. First, that neurons are the basic communication cells of the nervous system. Glial cells support and protect neurons. Electrical signals travel as action potentials. Chemical signals are transmitted across synapses. And neurotransmitters allow for neurons to communicate and coordinate our bodily functions.